Hey, what's up everyone? This is Ill Factor from beatacademy.com. This video, we're gonna be talking about some sound design and music production tips while recreating Post Malone's Wow. So let's dive right in. All right, so let's focus our attention on the drums. So I've got a MIDI track with a drum rack loaded with some sounds in there, and I'm also using Ableton Live's Drum Bus audio effect plugin right after that. I'm gonna then just click an empty clip slot here that allows me to just draw in our pattern. And when it comes to drawing the patterns, I sometimes like to start with the hi-hat because it makes the kick and snare pattern easier to find. So let's go ahead and use our B, our pencil tool. I'm using B to enable our pencil tool so we can draw in the hi-hats. Now, right now, if I trigger this, the hi-hats are playing at every 16th note. So I'm going to hit Command 2 to open up the grid to every 8th note. So when I click and draw on the pattern, it'll draw an 8th note instead of every 16th note. That's cool. Now let's go ahead and decrease the grid and place our kick and snare patterns. Now, sometimes what I like to do is just, I'll play it and I will stop because I like having that little playhead here, show up, the cursor show up where I feel the next hit should be. Right there. So let's draw in the snare. So let that ride and then find the next hit. And then put the next kick here. And then, that's a little weird, so we'll put it right there. Yeah, that sounds right. Right here. I'm also going to have the kick drum mirror that snare drum as well. There you go. Now what we'll do is just hit the duplicate loop button, and that'll extend that 1-bar loop to a 2-bar loop. And I'll click the snare row so that it highlights all the snares. And then what I'll do is, since they're all selected now, just hold the Option key. Let me take the pencil tool off. Hold the Option key and drag that to another sound so that it's triggering that same sound at the same time. Now, if you wanted to grab any one of these sounds that I'm currently using in this video, you can go ahead and click the link below in the description box to download these sounds. They're from a sample pack that I've put together that you can use in your projects. They work in any DAW. You simply just drag and drop them. It's filled with construction kits, loops, one-shots, transition effects, and they're yours 100% free, and they're 100% royalty free. So feel free to use them in your projects today. Just click the link below in the description box to download the sample pack. So now let's focus in on that 808 bass line that we hear that's somewhat filtered and distorted throughout the song. And so for this, I'm using an 808 sample along with some amp distortion, compression EQ, and another compressor for some sidechaining. But I've created all this into an instrument that you can download using the same link in the description box. So I've included that in the sample pack as well. So here we have the 808 sound, and I'm running it through some amp simulation. Now, if you're not using Ableton Live to follow along, you can go ahead and try any different third-party plugins or even native amp simulators that you might have on hand, or any type of overdrive or saturation, distortion, saturation plugins you can try using to get the same similar effect. So let's go ahead and focus on just playing the pattern. So here is the 808 pattern. So that's the pattern, and the 808 is being distorted from the amp simulator. So if I turn this off, and you really don't hear much of the harmonics. So let's turn this on, and I have this set to the heavy setting, and I'm cranking a lot of the gain here so that we're getting a lot of that massive distortion. And what we're going to do is use an EQ and some filtering to give it more of that same tone and shape that we hear on the Post Malone song. Now let's use a compressor just to dial the attack of this down a little bit. And then we have an EQ here to shave off a lot of that high end that we're currently hearing with the amp distortion. So I'm using this here, and I'm probably taking around 500 hertz or something like that. Now I have another compressor right after that EQ that I'm going to be using as a sidechain compressor, so that when the kick hits the 808 ducts. But this just comes with the instrument rack that I've created. I'm not going to use this now, because this one, what we're going to do is just leave it be, and the 808 that will duplicate, like the low end 808, we'll have the sidechain on. So what we're going to do to accomplish that that boxy, or that almost like this, you know, when I'm listening to the sound, I'm picturing like, what does that sound like? It sounds like an 808, but it sounds filtered. It sounds a little bit more boxy, and there's just some resonance to it. It sounds almost like it's also in a hallway type of thing. So for that, I'm going to go to my audio effects folder, grab a filter, and place that over the 808. Now I know we can use an EQ to do the similar thing, but the way I like to kind of do things is I leave what I'm using, and I use another tool just to continue carving on top of that. So we'll leave the EQ alone, as if that's just the way the sample, I treat it as that's a sample that I've loaded in, and that's just what I have. So the filter, instead of using a low pass, which just lets the lows pass, or a high pass filter setting, we're going to go and choose a band pass, so that we're taking out the lows and the highs. And then what we're going to do is just resonate and, you know, focus in on a specific frequency, and let's see what that does. So let's just solo the bass. And that's what's giving more of that tone. So if I bypass the filter, put the filter back on. So it's just combing down, and the frequencies are combing up, and just finding that sweet spot. And if I hit that 12 band, or 12 decibels, you can see that the bandwidth it gets a little bit wider. So it's not as drastic as, you know, 24 dB reduction. We can still add a little bit more filter drive to that. And go back to the 24. So now that I've used the bandpass, we're going to add a little bit of chorus to that. Why? Because when I'm listening to it, it does sound a little bit wider than, and what I mean wider, I mean it just sounds like the stereo imaging is a little bit wider there. So I'm going to use a chorus to help with that. And then let's go ahead and use a saturator. And this is just to kind of add a little bit more harmonics, but also just to drive up the overall sound. So we'll just crank a little bit of the drive. And I'm going to just sweep a little bit more up and down the filter. And once I've gotten that, I'm going to use a little bit, I'm going to send a little bit of the signal to a reverb that I already have on my return track B here. So I'm just sending a little bit of reverb. I'm using the Waves reverb, but you could use any reverb. I mean, this plugin already comes when I load my Ableton Live set. So I have that reverb already there. And just a little bit of that just to give some more of that dimension. Cool. Now what I'll do is I'll just simply click this whole channel, this whole track, and hit Command D to duplicate it. But what we're going to do is, for the second one, we're simply going to take away all the saturation, the chorus, and the bandpass filter. And what we're going to do is maybe lower the gain a little bit and just have this focus just strictly on the lower end. So I'll solo this 808 here that we just duplicated, same pattern. What I might need to do is have this go a whole octave lower. So I'll go to Control here, and where it says Transpose, we'll click that and put -12. And I'll go to the EQ here and just take away some of that height. And the sidechain I mentioned earlier, we're going to turn that on, and we're going to make sure we focus on the drum rack and the source of the sidechain, meaning what's the signal that will allow the 808 to duck out of the way every time it's heard. And for that, let's have the kick drum. So every time the kick plays, the 808 ducks out of the way. So that'll help with the lower end. If you can't hear it off your laptop, or I would definitely recommend you plug in some earphones to hear the bottom end. So now let's listen to the three together. Now, taking what we've done with the 808 to give it that tone, we're also going to implement that to the drums as well. Because at the very beginning of the song, it starts off with that filtered, distorted drums. So I'm going to go to the drum rack and hit Command D. And that's going to duplicate the drum rack with the sounds and all the effects on there as well. We're going to go to our auto filter, drag and drop them right on top of that. And we're also going to choose the band pass for this as well. And then we're just going to sweep around to find the right sweet spot for which filter frequency to focus on. I'm going to use the resonance to just give a little bit more, just more of that that pointy tone of the drums. So, and I'll go ahead and use a saturator right after that, just to give a little bit more drive. There you go. Well, I hope this video has been helpful for you in any way, shape, or form. And as my gift to you for watching, I want to send you the sample pack that I mentioned earlier, including the one-shots, construction kit loops, and transition effects. This is yours absolutely free. So just simply click the link below in the description box and download your sample pack today. Hey, thanks for watching, and I'm excited to see you on our next video. Take care.